Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Need to Nerd podcast. I'm your Spencer. I'm hopped up on a bunch of drugs because I'm sick as all can be. So my boy West is here to save me.
This episode was brought to you by the letter D for drugs.
I love drugs.
So, do the drugs you're supposed to do, or must do, or want to do, and do it safely.
Yeah.
And
take the appropriate amounts according to what your doctor says, or the bottle. Depending on.
Yeah.
What's
the
going
bottle
on?
of beer tells you drink me.
Oh,
you drink it.
Fair enough. No, Wes, I'm excited.
We're here to talk to you about video games.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm excited to talk to you about video games today. I was especially excited for our nerd fact of the day. I gotta pull it back up, but I saw this and I was
like, of the week.
It's the week. You're right. I apologize.
I mean, it could be nerd fact of the day, but that means that we're missing a lot of them, right? There's that would be 6/7 of the volume of nerd facts that is not reaching our audience, Spencer.
That's true. I'm gonna pull this one up really quick.
So instead, 1 out of 1 nerd fact per week coming right at you any minute now from the man, the myth, the big sick, Spencer Howland.
The big sick is not one that I have been called before. So as of
Tuesday,
so this week, in 2009, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon: Explorers of the Sky was released on the Nintendo DS.
Yeah, I saw that tweet earlier today from some different Mystery Dungeon fan accounts. But yes,
so it was
talk about this.
Yeah, it was yesterday. And Wes, why don't you for today's nerd fact of the week? Since we're doing video games, I thought I'd do a video game one. I mean, you've done it once on this podcast, but do it again. Sell people on what you say is the best Mystery Dungeon game.
Not only the best Mystery Dungeon game, I think it's the best Pokemon game I've ever played. Things that I can use to draw in the hearts and minds of all people. Incredible storyline, memorable characters, surprisingly stunning views at different times. There's some awesome kind of just like splash art that they'll put up for important moments, an incredible soundtrack, but also Pokemon, and better than just Pokemon, it's Gen 4 Pokemon, which in terms of the way that Pokemon mechanics work feels incredibly smooth compared to earlier implementations, yet not as heavy as some later implementations. A big range of Pokemon you can be, including just a whole bunch. You get to be a Pokemon. That, I suppose that's an important selling point of the Mystery Dungeon franchise. You are exploring a world by Pokemon, for Pokemon, with Pokemon.
I love it. In November, we'll do a review of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon demo for the Switch, so people can get a view of that. I loved the original. I have a question for you. If I haven't played Red or Blue, will I get this one?
There's nothing to get between them.
Okay, so it's not like there's no continuity between them.
Nope.
Games. Cool.
It's just surprise, or you would have known mechanics if you'd played the previous one, but
awesome.
I think that Sky does a great job of explaining itself.
Well, if you want to hear the pre-show where Wes and I talk about some different stuff, you want early access to the podcast, don't forget to head on to patreon.com/easygamemedia to see that. We still haven't created our Discord benefits yet, but I am kind of deciding what those are going to be. We will definitely have a private room for the Patreon-only podcast that we'll be doing each month, where those questions will only be answered there from that private room. So stuff like that, it'll be really fun. I'm really excited about it. But yeah, early access, behind the scenes content, stuff like that. Patreon.com/easygamemedia. This week, West, we're going out of our comfort zone a little, and people be like,
surprisingly familiar.
And the reason it's familiar is because it's video games. We're going to talk about video games that we love outside of our genre. And when you kind of pitched this idea, I really liked it. I really liked the idea of kind of just a more laid back episode where we pitch things that we love that aren't typically things that we love. Because,
Which, to some degree, means they're exceptional within their field.
Probably. I would not know for a couple, for mine, because I just don't play outside of these games. But I do really enjoy the ones that I am going to talk about. But Wes, why don't you tell the audience, if you're listening and you're not a video gamer, or maybe you're new to gaming, let's break it down real simple. Like, what is a genre?
Sure. A genre is a term used to indicate a collection of games with similar play styles or mechanics or goals. You hear RPG often as part of a description of a game, role-playing game, as one genre. And this is probably the broadest genre I could suggest. It's like saying rock as a music genre.
Should we throw the wiki?
There we're gonna get more narrow depending on the game.
Should we get Wikipedia definition in here?
Yeah.
Due to direct and active participation of the player, video game genres differ literally from literary and film genres. Though one could state that the Space Invaders is a science fiction video game, it ignores the fundamental differences and similarities to be found in the player's expectations. In contrast, visual aesthetics of games, which vary greatly, is argued whether it would be a characteristic to all games. Target audience, underlying purpose, and theme of the game sometimes used as a genre identifier, such as with a Christian game or a serious game. Boom.
So here's an interesting thing about Wikipedia is, as opposed to dictionaries, opening paragraph of Wikipedia articles are like nearly always baseless speculation.
No, I actually think it's a good point though, right? Like, I could have, so like a really good example.
Totally, I agree with it, but
like,
it's just funny.
The difference between RPGs from like a movie or literary genre standpoint is vast, right? I could have an RPG based in any type of movie or film genre. Like, I could have a horror RPG, I could have an action RPG, I could have a fantasy RPG.
What's interesting is it means that RPGs get to have two genres. They get to have a play style and a story genre.
Sure.
And chess, video game chess, has a play style of turn-based strategy game and a story of null.
Right.
Whereas, let's say Fire Emblem Three Houses, as a notable modern RPG, is specifically a turn-based strategy game, Japanese RPG, which has a large number of expectations going into it.
So, Wes, what are your go-to RPGs? Like, if you had 2-3 RPGs, what are your go-to genres? If you have 2 or 3 genres, where are you going for video games?
I play a lot of turn-based strategy games. I play a lot of fantasy role-playing games. And I have, in my life, played a decent amount of real-time strategy games. Actually, no. I want to say, like, farming exploration games. I'm not sure exactly what word I would use for it, but it's like your Minecraft and your Stardew Valleys.
Yeah, I was going to say your Harvest Moon style games.
Yeah, well, oh boy, Harvest Moon is even like... one of the cool things about genres is that by adding terms, you get to split things into trying to classify them, right? Like, if Minecraft is part of the genre, Harvest Moon is like a tiny subgenre within that genre.
Sure.
Because there's so many additional things.
Sure. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So how did you go about picking the games we're going to talk about today for you? Like, how did you decide what... Was it just your favorite games outside of those genres? Was it specific games you wanted to highlight outside of those genres? Like, how did you go about picking them?
I think that the first of my games today, the one that I would say is like my most beloved game that is of a genre that I will never be excited about again, is Halo 3. And I had it in mind when I pitched the episode. I just realized that like shooters, first-person shooters, are not a game type that I'm interested in playing really for the rest of my life. I have some like fundamental ethical questions about them, as well as just they require this reaction speed and like level of attention that I can't always provide when playing video games.
Awesome.
But Halo 3 holds a very warm place in my heart all the same, because it was probably the best video game I'd ever played when I touched it the first time.
It's funny, I have not played Halo 3 outside of multiplayer with some of my friends sometimes. And you, myself, and Matt Kling are going to try and play the campaign on that game. And I'm really excited for it. I've started that campaign once before with Matt Kling in person, but we didn't get very far just because we got busy with something else, probably Magic related. But what is it about Halo 3 that made it the best game you'd played up to that point?
Oh boy. So it was probably the first game I ever played on the Xbox 360, which prior to that moment in my life, I'd only ever played on a GameCube for consoles that I had used. I was deep into handheld Nintendo consoles at that point, but
Xbox as you should have been.
Absolutely, but like for some reason my parents were always extremely hesitant having any consoles growing up.
Sure.
Somehow the handheld one snuck in under the radar. It was an uphill battle the whole way, all the same. Sub-theme of the podcast is me thrashing my parents' refusal to give me video games as a kid.
Yeah, I know. Before it was TV shows, now we're going video games too, West.
Boy, did I have a lot of Thomas the Tank Engine toys.
So you sit down for the first time. It's so funny to me.
I was at a friend's house, big flat screen TV.
Yeah, the Halo experience.
Yeah,
we had lots of. I think the first time I played Halo 3 was at a swing club after like end of year party in a friend's theater room. In their basement.
It took me several seconds to process that title, but sure, go ahead.
What?
Just all of it.
Yeah, I did swing club. You know, the dance. Yeah. Theater room is a room that is like a movie theater in your house, West. Yeah. Anyway, so we were at a friend's movie room the first time that I played it, and it was like pretty crazy because like I think that for me most of my Halo experience was on Halo 2, just on the OG Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I think the biggest thing for me, and I don't know how much you can speak to this, was just the smoothness of controls going from an OG Xbox controller to the Xbox 360 controller. And honestly, if we're being honest, the Xbox 360 controller like redefined controllers, and Halo 3 specifically, for all console gaming. I mean, you talked about playing on a GameCube controller. Man, is that a vast difference.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, clearly one of the things that's incredible about console video gaming is how in conversation all of the major players are with each other. Not in terms of them talking to each other as they're designing their products, but how each subsequent design of the product is informed by all of the best pieces of each other's work.
Yeah. I mean, I've got, just like looking next to me, I've got the Switch Pro controller and an Xbox One controller. And like, can you imagine, these things would not exist probably without Halo 3, to be honest. Like,
how many controllers can we hold on our desk all at once?
I got a GameCube controller next to me too, but I wasn't gonna pick that up.
Here's the how it began, and you've got the how it is right now for Twitter memes.
But for real, like, if it was not for that game and that controller, how different would video game controls be today?
I think video games would be different, right? It's a landmark work.
Yeah, I
Halo 3
agree.
is. I mean, I was playing it in like 06, right? Like, what was it, 05 release? feel like I have to know this.
That sounds about right. I think it would have been either 06 or just after. But
I'm wrong. It came out in 2007. It came out as I started 7th grade.
okay,
Which I guess holds up in my memories.
my junior year of high school. That makes sense.
Yeah, but basically, I spent 7th and 8th grade. I had a friend who lived along my walk home from school. I began walking home in about 7th grade. And like every day I would just like, if I could get away with it, I would just go hang out there for 2-3 hours and we would, jam Xbox games, primarily Halo 3. And over time, I just got to know like the ins and outs of all of the levels in this game without ever owning it.
Can I ask how and nostalgia plays a factor for everybody. I think anybody who denies nostalgia isn't I just think it's a good thing at this point in my life. Like I think it's great. Have you I know that you bought Halo to play with me and Matt.
I played 5 hours of it last night.
I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, no, I played through more than the first half of the campaign last night.
Oh man, I'm so excited to play the campaign with you, man. It's so funny when you go back. I was at a friend's house this weekend in Las Vegas who let me stay there for my friend Casey's wedding, and just somebody was like, do you want to play Magic? And I was like, yeah, I do. And they just got out the Magic decks that they built through 3 fat packs and stuff, and like we just played games, and like I cried shuffling those cards after not
playing Magic cards without having to care about the everything of Magic for even just a little while is so fascinating, because every hand you draw is just a dream fantasy.
Yeah.
Until you start like nitpicking.
But like if you think about like the simple nostalgia of like shuffling a deck of Magic cards that I haven't experienced since February, and then apply that to like a video game that
there's a muscle memory to it.
Yeah, like that defined your childhood. I bet the first time you stuck a sticky grenade last night, you were like, oh man.
Among the many other things that felt amazing about last night, from like no scoping to you know what one felt great? When I finally got to like have a tank, and I like placed like had 4 different Marines on it, all with like good weapons that like could destroy another vehicle. Like I don't know, there's a lot of nostalgia to Halo 3 for me, and it's definitely like it's the whole package. Like I played a lot of multiplayer, like whether it was just at home, like 4-person Slayer, or
Slayer.
Another group of friends of mine growing up. We had a type we played, which was like 100%, like the full speed you could go, whatever the full jump you could go. 1 shot kills you, pistols only.
Nice.
On the there's like a level that like has like the grav lifts across it or whatever.
Yeah. Like, I know which one you're talking about.
And like it was just chaos. It was beautiful.
Nice. So I think you have touched on a couple things, but what stood out for Halo 3? Like it's outside of your genre. So like where's the reason? Like is it just because of the nostalgia, or is there other reasons?
I think the setting is fantastic enough that it lets me step outside of like other. Obviously, Halo 3 is not the same genre as Call of Duty, but the parallels are certainly numerous. And like a Call of Duty, I don't know if I would play these days, or I actively would avoid playing, because it's just a bit too real, a bit too gritty, a bit too, I know it plays into some elements in society I don't love.
Sure.
Halo 3 is closer to like how I can justify the violence my characters cause in D&D, for instance.
You'll have to come over and play some Halo Infinite with me for the campaign when I get it.
I'm in for it.
Yeah.
I'd play a good amount of Halo, and I really like the campaign. I think that like following the stories is fun. They put I love when games that have just like a ton of stuff going on in them, like a ton of different weapon types, a ton of different vehicles. Like, they just lay it out slowly over the course of a campaign. It's a really good way to introduce it all. It's really fun.
Before we go on to your second game, I just want to kind of highlight here something that we've talked about on the show before, but you talked about escaping. Like, you escaped from reality in Halo 3 in a way that maybe you don't always find possible in games like maybe Counter-Strike or games like Modern Warfare or Call of Duty.
Or PUBG or...
Yeah. I like that.
Game of that.
I think escaping in video games is like, I don't know, half the reason that I like them.
Yeah.
What's your second game?
So my second game is a very unknown RPG, or not RPG, but indie puzzle game called The Witness. And if you haven't heard of it, which is probably anyone listening to this,
I had never heard of it before you said it in the pre-show.
And part of the reason why I consider this to be outside of my genre is I love puzzle games, but like a puzzle game with like a full story and a long playthrough, I'm unlikely to get through it. And this game is just defies a lot of different attempts to categorize it. But the premise is relatively simple. You wake up on a seemingly deserted island that has a good amount of infrastructure put in. It seems like industrial level infrastructure, but everywhere you go are these like puzzles that you have to solve in order to unlock the thing or move a bit of walkway or otherwise move forward in exploring the island. And they're like the sort of games that like a mobile game on your phone, like a simple puzzle game would have. But like, at least that's how they start. But as they go, each zone has its own mechanics that you're playing within these puzzles, where you're essentially going from a start point and an end point without... I mean, it actually just like changes wildly throughout it, but you're like drawing lines through grids depending on a bunch of rules. But sometimes the clues are hidden in the scenery around you for solving it. And just, it's really lovingly animated. Please just like Google The Witness and look at images for a moment. And if you're not like drawn to play this game by how gorgeous it is, then you're looking for something different in video games than I am. But
dude, you know what's funny is the more you pitch this, the more it sounds like, reminds me of like an adult version of Zelda Link's Awakening. Like, and I don't know, like I love the puzzle aspects of the Zelda games. I would love kind of like a simpler story, simpler puzzles. I don't know. Like it sounds sweet.
It really is.
Would you describe it as like an adventure puzzle game, or would you describe it as just straight up puzzles?
You have an avatar in the world, but you're not a very robust avatar. You're not jumping, you're not platforming very much. You're really just like walking on paths or between areas. There's stuff you can interact with out in the world, but like, you don't fight anything, you don't run from anything. You're mostly like solving these puzzles to move forward, but there's a lot of like lore is a weird word to use, but basically the island has a story of how it became this way, and it's laid out for you in little bits and pieces all over the island. And it's one thing that's delightful about it is that it's just tough. Like you're problem solving every bit of the way, and there's not a lot of ways to subvert that, right? You can look things up, but right, I definitely looked up some puzzles in this because they were too frustrating after a while, but
that's okay.
It really helps you think critically. It was fun. It was one of the first games I ever streamed a little bit of.
Nice.
Didn't have a lot of viewers, but I was having fun with it.
Dude, it's all about having fun. That's something that I've learned recently in streaming.
Yeah.
So, cool. So, I guess I'll go to me. So my genres are RPG, easily number one. Like, I would rather play an RPG than do most things in my life.
Yeah.
You like, if you go through my favorite games of all time.
Do you have a specific subgenre of RPGs that you like?
I don't know. It's kind of hard. Like, when I was younger, I used to always say that Final Fantasy Tactics Advance was my favorite video game of all time. As I got older, it was more, KOTOR. So I really like turn-based RPGs. I really like, but what's
or
important?
Pseudo turn-based like KOTOR is.
Yeah, KOTOR pseudo turn. That's not the reason to like KOTOR though. The combat system in KOTOR is like its problem, not.
I mean, it's a relatively common combat system across a lot of RPGs of its era.
Sure. But for me, like, the thing is escaping, like you said. So for me, I usually go into a video game to escape. I really like sports video games, so like NCAA football, Madden, just spending hours just trying to break records and stuff like that, just competing against myself. And I'm a really competitive person, but I don't necessarily always like competing against the entire world. Like, sometimes it's just getting better today at something than I was yesterday. Um, so sports games are probably up there for me. And then I don't know, I just really love platformers. So like, Mario. Just I've been playing Super Lucky's Tale. I'm not done with it. It's actually really hard for a platformer for me because I'm just haven't played a ton of platformers recently. But I also got I streamed Galaxy and Sunshine, so I'm going to be playing those over the next year or so. And there'll be a video up on the YouTube channel with my initial impressions. But those are kind of the big ones for me. I almost picked like some of the Zelda games. People like to say that the Zelda games are RPGs, but I do not believe that. I believe
they're
that they're
a wild skew.
Yeah,
right?
I think that they're action puzzle games. But
one of the cool things I like about The Legend of Zelda as a series is how diverse the games are.
Yeah.
Relative to each other, right? Like, if you take Zelda and Pokemon, for instance, and held up and examined, like,
I think that's
right,
a
some
flaw.
of the similarities right there. I think like Pokemon stays this sort of rigid structure for a long time, and like Zelda was bucking its precedent in the second release.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a good example of the good things that Zelda did, but
well, no, because I think that they explore a lot of different spaces, and the best games are the ones that like really push into new territory.
It's funny, right? Because like, Pokemon is like the perfect example of like, I'll probably play it, I'll probably enjoy it. I skipped Black and White and Black and White 2. Like, I don't know, I just enjoy RPGs. Pokemon's lacking in a couple of ways for me, like to be like one of the best games. Like, its stories are usually pretty bad.
Well, the thing that makes Pokemon good is it's actually a massive multiplayer online game, not a
that's
RPG.
That's probably true. But the first game that I want to talk about is one that I don't think will surprise anybody, and that is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Defend this being out of the genres you usually play.
Okay, so first of all, I don't like fighters. Like, and the problem is that Smash Bros. Is a platform fighter, which makes it very different from, Tekken, Mortal Kombat. I tried to get into Mortal Kombat. I tried to get into Tekken. I tried to get into Street Fighter. It just doesn't. I own Dragon Ball FighterZ for my Switch. Dragon Ball Fighters, sorry, for my Switch. It's fun. Like, I would play fighters with Mason. Has it too. I would play fighters with my friend Mason if he wanted to, basically whenever he wanted. But there's something different about this game for me. Like, Ultimate,
it's the whole package.
It is so different. So often people are like, "Oh, I don't like fighters, so I've never really gotten into it." I'm like, that is not how I would describe this game. I approach Ultimate as Magic the Gathering at 1,000 times speed with a much wider metagame and much more ability to outplay your opponent and less variance.
So you're telling me that top tier Smash literally is like LSV versus Yu Watanabe?
No, it's way better than that.
Like
Absolutely.
they're that fast?
It's faster than that and better than that. There is not a. I don't think that there is a point in Magic history where you can point to as many insane plays and good things as like an average Smash match, and that's why it's a better viewer experience.
Certainly, everything is exciting all the time.
Well, unless you're playing against Sonic or Game & Watch, but that's besides the point.
All of HBox's opponents.
Well, I don't know. I think Puff is hype, but I do think that one of the cool things that Smash Ultimate has going for it is just how fast it is, and I like that there's this party level entry, right? You can love Smash without wanting to play competitive Smash.
Yeah.
In like a real way.
And the thing that I like about that is they still play the same game that competitive Smash players play.
I played Smash all weekend in Vegas with people that have put in 0 hours into Ultimate, and I didn't win every game. We turned on Final Smash. We played 4v4. We played 2v2. And like I wasn't winning every game. I think I lost 4 times over the weekend. So it's not like it's not like there's no variance.
I'm over here thinking Patriot sus because of the number of times I've beaten you lifetime, but maybe you're just trying a lot harder against me.
Well, it's just have you never beaten me?
I'm not sure I have in any way other than like you straight up dying twice for no reason.
Here's the thing: is that
imagine you were more inebriated then as well.
Yeah, I was, but that's not really the point. My point with this game specifically, because I was at a place when this game came out where like I was looking for an outlet to like try and improve myself, and outside of Magic the Gathering, and Smash did that in ways that I didn't expect, and it's so different from other fighting games because like I tried Dragon Ball FighterZ, I've tried other games, and this one speaks to me kind of in a different way because it has all the elements. If I want to go into a laboratory and just make myself better at something, I can do that. If I want to just pull Smash out and have a party with people, I can do that. If I want at my birthday party to just smash people's faces and to make myself feel good for my birthday,
I was there.
I can do that. And it is so cool to have a game with that kind of range. And for that game to be a fighting game is even cooler to me because I think that as somebody who has played against somebody who is a semi-pro Street Fighter player in Street Fighter, it's like, or I even more common for me was Marvel vs. Capcom. It's just like, all right, well, this is there's not a setting you could change to make this fun, whereas that's just not true in Smash, and I really like that about it.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to even.
Also, people who want to say it's a party game and not a fighter, whatever. I called it a fighter on the podcast.
Also, I think that anyone who's here arguing with us about genre definitions is, I think, severely missing the point
of this podcast.
Or what we're using genres for.
Sure.
Because genres are words we use to talk about games, not there's not like an obelisk out there where the name of every real RPG is inscribed on it.
All right, I am gonna actually probably buy this game tonight.
The Witness?
Well, I'm gonna have to. I have so many games that I want to play right now. West, don't make me. No, I just want to play this game again. So my next one, I'm cheating, West. I'm gonna give you 2. I have tried.
Always unfair.
I tried Forza.
You asked me to stick to a structure.
I didn't ask you to stick to anything. I've tried Forza. I've tried Sega GT Racing. Like, I have tried all kinds of racers. And the 2 racers that no one has competed with are Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition and Need for Speed Underground 2. And
every snowboarding or skiing racing game I've ever played and Mario Kart.
So, I don't know what it was about these games for me, but I was enamored, enthralled. I don't even know the words to use. Unlocking cars, getting progress. It felt like it was a racing game RPG in a way that no other game had felt like before. And both of these games they are almost the same game, like in so many ways. Unlocking new places to visit, unlocking more of your map, like it was unreal. And if you are just looking for a really fun, easy entry into racing games with tons of customization, tons of things to unlock, and just relaxing, and this is it. This is where to be. I also had to get some old stuff in here, just like you did, because like I'm all about that retro. And I think it's safe to say that like Xbox 360 games are retro now, and I think both these games are OG Xbox, like OG Xbox. So
you sure they're not Xbox 2 or Xbox 4?
I don't know. Those don't exist.
No, they don't. Naming practices are odd.
But the just level of, I mean, man, the hours I spent playing these games, just trying to get better at this type of stuff, is and something that I had never done before. Was really fun for me as a kid, and something that I really enjoyed unlocking. I think it is. I think it's Need for Speed Underground 2. I can't remember one of them, like the level that your car is like cool looking determines unlocking certain events, and stuff like that. That
is definitely not the feature I would have ever assumed a racing game would have.
It's so cool.
Huge points there.
It's so cool. Like these games, if you want a racing game that makes you feel like you're playing an RPG, these two games will do that. And it's like, well, then how is that your genre? It's like, it is. Like, I am not here to. I'm not.
I got a hot take, Spencer.
Yeah.
Racing games aren't a genre. They're just Grand Theft Auto with fewer features.
Ooh.
I'm kidding, by the way.
Ooh, if you were on TikTok today, that joke is way funnier because there was a 12-year-old who stole a school bus, and he was all over TikTok today. He had like 32 cops chasing him down, trying to get this 12-year-old to stop driving this bus, and it was. I will not say what I think it was on this show because YouTube. But anyway, if you want to drive a motorcycle though in a video game against people driving cars to try and win races, Midnight
Mario
Club.
Kart.
Oh, that one too. Mario Kart's up.
I'm just gonna throw Mario Kart at all of it because Smash is the fighting game of Mario Kart.
Sure. It's true. I really enjoyed these two. I wonder if one of them is on Game Pass right now, because I would play that right now. I would just buy one right now though. So, but that is gonna do it for the show. Wes, what do you think we learned this week? Like, I want to play all the games we talked about. It's.
I think that I think that one of the cool things about video games is how many factors go into what we'll like in a video game.
Sure.
Beyond the genre, right? Like, I think a lot of people probably they keep their eye out for like a few specific genres, and like they look into like the notable headliners of all of that, and then after that, it's kind of up to you to figure out what games you want to play.
Yeah.
But like clearly there are games that I love in racing. There are games that I love in fighters. I love games in first-person shooters. I'm not sure I loved a single game in third-person shooters ever.
Would you describe Metroid Prime as a third-person shooter?
Not played it.
Okay. It's funny.
And I think that's the other beautiful thing is that there are totally games that because they break some convention of their genre, they become almost new genres unto themselves.
That's the whole point that I wanted to make on this show, is just breaking out of your comfort zone will help you identify the things you like. Like, if I only played RPGs for my whole life, I'd be missing out on so many things I love. So many things that give me a break from that.
Okay, but think about like how well you would know the good lines in Final Fantasy VII.
I've never played Final Fantasy VII.
Neither have I.
I didn't own a PlayStation. So thanks for throwing me under the bus there, Wes. I
basically threw me under the bus.
That's
too.
true, but
Who are apparently under a 12-year-old on a bus.
Yeah.
Under a bus.
Oh man, that was a good reference. Good, well done. Circling it back, the Dane Cook approach to comedy. I appreciate it, West. I appreciate it. I think that for me, the reason I was so excited to do this episode is just I love talking about things that I love, and I also love not having to defend things that you love, not having to like just go enjoy yourself. Like so often, I think at least for me and West, if this isn't true for you, please speak up. But so often, I am paralyzed by making a choice in what type of game to buy. And when you pitched this podcast idea, I was like, you know what? That's so stupid. I used to just throw in a video game and try it. Like, what am I scared of?
Yeah, I think that a big part of it is you can get so much info about a video game before you try it these days. Not all of which actually could help you make a decision as to whether you would like the gameplay of it.
I also think that too often I am doing that. Like, too often I am getting oversaturated with information and opinions about a game before developing my own.
Yeah, I think that the number one thing I need is just a solid recommendation from a friend.
Yeah,
that's a good way to.
I legit am probably gonna try the game that you. What did you escape? The Wilds. What was it called?
The Witness.
The Witness.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes to where you can get all of 4 of these or 5 of these games technically. But yeah, thank you everybody so much for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you to those who are here on Patreon if you're listening to this early. And we will be back every week. I am surprised I made it through this episode, West. I don't even know that I coughed. I am impressed.
You showed up ready to play.
Yeah, dude, I was ready to go. You can be ready to go too next week with another episode of the Need to Nerd podcast.
Before then, come at us on our Discord, in the comments, however you really want to, on Twitter. Come find us and tell us what games you love that are outside of genres you play, or spectacularly break the rules of their genre.
Oh yeah, dude, we should totally jump in the Discord and talk about this when we post this episode, because I would love to hear everyone's stuff on this. There's it's funny, people are always like, I don't like recommendations because I have too much on my plate, but it's like, you know what, just see the ones that you want to see, do the things that you want to do, and I'd love to hear your recommendations. Definitely smash that like button on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and we will be in our Discord, which you can find in the show notes, where we're going to talk about these games. But West, actually, why don't you just post that right away in the Discord for me so that I can see if I can buy that.
Sure.
Thank you everybody so much, and we'll see you guys all next week with another episode of the Need to Nerd podcast.